Welcome to VHS Voyage, where you can Welcome to VHS Voyage, where you can join our journey to find, watch, and discuss movies on VHS that we've never seen or never knew existed. I'm Matt.
I'm Devin.
And in today's episode, we're going to talk about
Last Action Hero.
Okay, so today's episode is a little bit different because usually we try to find movies that we both have never seen or never heard of. But in today's episode, it's actually a movie that I've seen that Devin has not seen. And that movie is the Arnold Schwarzenegger classic, Last Action Hero. And I'm very excited to get into this movie. I watched this movie a lot when I was younger. Before we start talking about the movie, getting into the story and all that good stuff, Devin, hit us with some facts and information about Last Action Hero.
This is directed by John McTiernan. He did Predator, Die Hard, Hunt for Red October, 13th Warrior, Rollerball. Served long prison time after Rollerball for something. I was way too much to read and I don't like reading. He went broke and he hasn't directed in 20 years.
Holy shit.
Yeah. It's written by Shane Black, who did like Monster Squad, The Lethal Weapon, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Nice Guys, all that stuff. IMDb.
Okay, IMDb, I'm going to say 7.
Lower than that.
6.5.
6.4.
Okay.
So Rotten Tomatoes, critic and audience.
Okay, Rotten Tomatoes critic, I'm going to go with 70?
Lower.
60?
Lower.
Lower?
Oh,
Are you f***ing serious?
Oh, yeah.
40?
38. You want to go with audience?
Audience, I'm going to say, is probably much higher than that. I'm going to say audience is 70.
No.
What?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? No. What is it?
47.
I can't even wrap my mind around that. I can't even wrap my mind around that.
We'll get into that a little bit more here in a minute. There's a lot about this movie when I did some digging. This has Arnold Schwarzenegger, Charles Dance, Tom Noonan, F. Murray Abraham, Austin O'Brien, and a bunch of cameos. I'm sure we'll talk about that too.
Oh, yeah.
So to get into some facts, this was a massive commercial failure, lost tons of money.
Really?
It was a horrible failure among critics and audiences, as we just saw too with the critic and audience score. And there's a big reason it was a commercial failure. There were 7 games based off this. They put a ton of money towards that.
Yeah, the game sucked.
There was a $20 million Burger King promotion.
20 million?
There was a $36 million theme park ride made for this movie.
Wow.
It was NASA's first ever paid ad in space for this movie.
Wow.
And they built a 4-story inflatable Jack Slater thing for Cannes Film Festival. And all that money is not even included in the film's already almost $100 million budget. So this was a massive, massive failure.
Wow.
And it came out a week after Jurassic Park.
Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster financially, for sure.
Yeah. The director was so sad about this movie that he literally ran away to Wyoming due to the failure of the box office, and the nightmare production that it was stressed him out so much that he had to run away to Wyoming and all the ridicule he got from it. You know how they do those like opposite Oscars where it's like bad awards? This was the most nominated film for the bad awards in 1993.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
People hated this movie.
Okay.
They hated this movie.
What else you got?
They said I couldn't find anything positive. Like, I'm trying to find facts about the movie. I could not find anything positive. Shane Black said it was a nightmare also to write, and he was pissed off when it came out because they changed so much that he wrote and like just everything. He said it was an absolute nightmare. Yeah. This is a real thing. I laughed my ass off when I read this. Arnold blamed the movie for failing because of bad press and Bill Clinton getting elected as president. I tried to like find maybe something good that people had a good time making this movie. I could not find anything. Wow. It was like a nightmare for everybody that made it, pretty much. That's pretty much it for facts. It sounded like a nightmare.
This episode took a dark turn. Yeah. Wow, I was not expecting any of that, dude. You've got me like shocked right now.
Yeah.
So let's go through the story real quick. So Arnold Schwarzenegger plays himself at times, but he also plays a fictional action hero named Jack Slater, who has had multiple movie sequels. You've got a boy named Danny, who is a huge fan of Arnold Schwarzenegger, a huge fan of the Jack Slater movie series. And he's at the theater watching Jack Slater 3 for who knows how many times he's watched it because he's just such a big fan. The old man that owns the movie theater tells him that he actually has Jack Slater 4 and he's going to be doing some kind of like, I guess, test screening to make sure it works and everything. So he invites Danny to come back later to watch the new movie before it even comes out. So he'll get like early access to the movie. So when he comes back, movie theater owner, Nick is his name. The old man's name is Nick. He gives Danny a magic ticket that he got from Harry Houdini himself. And that magic ticket ends up letting Danny enter the movie world of Jack Slater 4. The 4th sequel in the Jack Slater series. It allows him to enter the movie world, and he goes on this crazy adventure with Jack Slater in the movie world. And I'm sure we'll talk about this in more detail. In the movie world, the rules are different. The physics and the way things work are different than in the real world. The villain eventually gets a hold of the ticket. The villain in Jack Slater 4 figures out that he's able to use this ticket to move through other dimensions, but then he realizes when he goes to the real world, the villain goes to the real world, he realizes that he was a fictional movie character. He starts to realize the power of the ticket and that he can go in different movies. So he concocts.
Yeah,
is that a word? Concoct? Is that a word?
I just heard cuck.
Cook.
That's all I heard.
Let me rephrase that. He schemes this crazy plan where he's gonna, go into different movies and pull different villains out of different movies to, I guess just cause chaos and be a god, essentially, is what he's trying to do. And of course, Danny and Jack Slater enter the real world to try to stop him.
I think my favorite thing is just making fun of the movies.
Yes.
And like making fun of just like the tropes that they just make fun of it the entire time. I think that's my favorite thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely the best thing about the movie because the whole thing's a satire and it's constantly making fun of action movies all throughout. You have some specific examples that you want to talk about?
Like when he goes to kick in the door, but then he opens it instead.
Yeah.
The rigged bomb. There's 2 of them in the movie. There's always a rigged bomb.
Yeah.
Bulletproof vest.
Yep.
Angry police chief.
Yes, that's the one I was going to say.
I got the city council chewing my eggs off for that plane you crashed. I got the mayor scheduling parades up by Lincoln Tunnel for that stunt you put on the beach. Now everybody want to know what it is and when it will be. Do I make myself clear?
Only beautiful women.
Yep.
You don't reload guns.
Yep.
Feel no pain. There's no sense of time or direction. Like people just show up in places and like time and they know exactly where you are.
The bad guys always miss.
Basically, it's the movie we would be making fun of on this channel.
Exactly.
Did you have that thought when I was like, this is the movie we would be making fun of right now, is basically.
Except that everything they did was on purpose to make fun of action movies. The story in Jack Slater 4 is Arnold Schwarzenegger's Jack Slater's second cousin gets killed and he goes out for revenge because you don't mess with any of Jack Slater's family. So when he gets to his second cousin's house, there's 2 cops there. His second cousin is dead in the house and there's a bomb, like I guess in his body or something. And he's like, there's like a note attached to his cousin and he starts flipping through it and it's like 5. And then the next note is 4. He's so stupid.
Yeah, and when he dies, just like some of the movies we watched, he doesn't care. He doesn't care that his cousin died, which is exactly what happens in these movies we watch. Nobody doesn't care at all.
Yep, and all the characters around him die. So when this explosion happens, the 2 cops that are there die. And one of them, he's an old cop. He says, as he's dying, his dying words are, 2 days till retirement.
So that's a reference to Lethal Weapon.
Oh, okay.
Because in the first Lethal Weapon, throughout the whole movie, which Shane Black also wrote, and wrote this, Danny Glover's always saying 2 days to retirement, 2 days to retirement.
I see.
2 days to retirement.
I think it's funny that Arnold is basically making fun of himself.
He is.
And Charles Dance is making fun of himself because Charles Dance was known. Y'all might know him as like Tywin Lannister from Game of Thrones, but he was always known for like playing like the evil bad guy or like the henchman or something. So he's kind of making fun of himself too.
There's a lot of interesting things that they do in the movie with how the rules work in the movie world and in making fun of movie rules and things like that. Like, you know, back when they used to have all phone numbers start with 555, they make fun of that. Like Devin said earlier, all the women are super attractive. There's like no ugly women in the movie world.
Everyone's wearing like futuristic clothing.
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't match normal clothing at all.
Yep. Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, Jack Slater, is indestructible, essentially. But some other stuff that I liked in the movie world, they're in a movie store. and they see like an ad for Terminator 2, and it's Sylvester Stallone playing Terminator 2 instead of Arnold Schwarzenegger. And there's a ton of cameos all throughout the movie, especially when you get to the real world and get to the final act where they're at the premiere for Jack Slater 4. You got Arnold Schwarzenegger, you got Belushi, you got...
I got a whole list right here.
Oh yeah, go ahead, name them all.
Chevy Chase, Jim Belushi, Tom Noonan plays himself and plays the Ripper in this. Also, he was the killer in Manhunter.
He was.
So yeah.
He was.
MC Hammer, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Also, Danny DeVito plays an animated character. Because you know how like movies used to have real world animated characters. He's like an animated cat in this.
Oh, was that Danny DeVito?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow, I didn't know that. So some other tropes that it makes fun of that I liked. The double crossing cop.
Yep.
That there's always, usually in these action movies, there's always a double crossing friendly character that you thought was friendly, so that's a trope to make fun of. The trope in action movies where the bad guy will catch the good guy, and instead of killing them immediately, they sit there and just talk, and then eventually the good guy escapes. So that happens a couple of times.
I noticed one falling into a pool.
Yes.
To not die.
Over the top plans, like there was one, the villain had one plan in the movie world where there was a funeral and the dead body had some kind of like gas bomb in his body.
Yeah.
And like the bad guy, the named Benedict, who's played by, what's his name?
Charles Dance.
Dance. He goes up to the dead body and he pulls the dead body's finger to activate the bomb. And I don't know if you noticed this, but when he pulled the finger, the body let out a little fart.
Oh yeah, and he let out a massive fart when he actually really when the bomb blew up.
Yeah. So just ridiculous, over the top villain plans that make no sense. Like why not just have a bomb in the casket with a remote detonator? Or something?
Another one I love? Instead of him just parking his car, he like drives up a hill and like crashes it into something and then just gets out instead of just parking the car, which is like an action movie thing. Like, I'm going to be a badass and drive up here when you could just stop the car and get out. I like that one.
Exactly. So I think one of my favorite sequences in the movie was the whole movie premiere sequence.
Yeah.
Because you got Arnold Schwarzenegger as himself, and he's like having an argument with his wife. His wife is like, don't you be advertising the restaurant and all this other stuff. And then, you got this kind of fun scene where when Jack Slater is in the movie theater trying to stop the Ripper, Arnold Schwarzenegger tackles him. And so you got Arnold Schwarzenegger looking at Jack Slater's character, and he thinks it's a stunt double. He's like, oh, you're the best stunt double I've ever seen. What else you want to talk about?
First of all, I love that they kept referring to F. Murray Abraham's character. I love how the kid kept referring to Amadeus, which was like an 80s movie where he kills Mozart. I love that they kept referring to that. I thought that was great. I love that Humphrey Bogart is in this movie. They have a black and white cutout of Humphrey Bogart animated in this police station. I love that they got Humphrey Bogart into this, even though he was long dead at the time that this came out. I love that the T-1000 Robert Patrick is in it.
Yes, I forgot about that.
I think that was funny how he just walks past and the kid's like, look, because he's trying to like tell Arnold, that's the T-1000. Favorite cameo by far though is when they're in the real world and they go and the ticket drops at the Seventh Seal. With the Seventh Seal is like a big 50s movie, and I love that they brought Death out of the Seventh Seal. Now Ian McKellen plays Death here, which he did not play Death in Seventh Seal, but I just love that they reference Seventh Seal because that's like just such a deep cut. And I'm like, I love that. That's got to be my favorite cameo of the whole thing is the Seventh Seal plug.
I think everybody out there knows Arnold Schwarzenegger is not the best actor, right? But I'm curious what you thought about his performance in Last Action Hero.
I thought it was fun. I mean, he's basically just making fun of himself, so that's really it. But I thought it was fun. I've never been like a big Arnold guy. I was always more of like a Sly guy.
Yeah, Sly guy, that rhyme.
But I mean, it was Arnold Schwarzenegger. It wasn't really any different than anything else, really. Yeah,
I think one of my favorite things about Last Action Hero is that it is a very unique idea. It's a very unique and original premise. Well, at least at that time, I feel like it was very unique. This is actually a movie that I would not mind seeing a reboot of.
Yeah,
a complete remake.
Yeah,
into like making fun of like modern day movie tropes.
Yeah,
I think and it doesn't even necessarily have to be an action movie. It could be a completely different genre.
Superhero.
Yes.
Is what it would. That's what it would be making fun of. Is definitely superhero movie.
That would be perfect. So Last Action Hero. Devin, since this is your first time seeing it, I'm curious what your final thoughts are on the movie.
I like it. I think it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's silly. I just think it's fun not to be taken too seriously. It's a little long. It's over 2 hours long.
Yeah, they probably could have cut it down a little bit.
Yeah. It does sort of, even though it's kind of like a parody movie, at what point does a parody movie become a parody of itself?
Right.
So I think it kind of does get bordering on that sometimes.
Yeah.
Like it almost maybe goes a little bit too much into it. But I thought it was fun. I liked it a lot.
And I mean, of course, I love Last Action Hero. I've been watching this movie since I was a kid. For me, obviously, since I picked the movie, it's definitely a keeper. I'm curious for you though if it would be a keeper.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I guess that's it for today's episode of VHS Voyage on Last Action Hero. I'm Matt.
I'm Devin.
We'll catch you guys in the next episode.